Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer video, and today we're going to be talking about 10 mono green budget decks that are really just great for a number of different players. So this is the most recent video in the Intro to Pioneer series. So I used to do a whole bunch of these videos really detailing a lot of different top tier decks in the format, on a budget. I love doing budget content here for the channel. I think it's really fun playing budget decks just because, you get to play some different types of cards you wouldn't normally play, but also you have something to work toward. And you want to know what? Some people, maybe they're looking for a Pioneer deck just to build for their local FNM or weekly, Magic event, but they're not really sure if they want to dive fully into the format. That's what these decks are perfect for. So before we hop into the 10 decks, I have to go over the parameters here. So the feature decks, they all need to feature these things. Mono green, no color splashing at all, not even for like activated abilities or anything like that. It is truly just mono green. Less than $50. After all, it is a budget deck, it needs to be less than $50. So you're not going to see any Besaigus or any crazy expensive staples or anything like that for these decks. They need to have a flavorful theme. Obviously, that's really important, like whether or not, it's a matching theme, or more of like a Kindred theme, or really whatever it is, like all the decks are going to have like a main synergy or strategy to them. And then obviously easy for new players. We're not going to be playing cards with like word soup or anything like that. It's going to be relatively straightforward. These decks aren't just for new players, but it's for people that are looking for good budget decks, but also people that are looking to get into the format on a budget. So let's go and hop into it here. So the first deck I have to mention, when you think of like mono green, you normally would think of a deck like this. It's really Steel Leaf Stompy. It's one of the original Pioneer mono green decks. Obviously you have your Llanowar, your Elvish Mystics, and then you just kind of go up the curve from there. Werewolf Pack Leader, Steel Leaf Champion, Old Growth Troll. You got your Ronus the Indomitable. You got Axebane Ferric, Surik the Hunt Caller, Galta Primal Hunger, and as well as Vivian Arkbow Ranger. This is really just the standard mono green deck. Like, honestly, this is just mono green. It's mono green aggro and it's hard. We play some elves to accelerate a little bit, and then we go from there with all of our really fantastic, undercosted creatures. So the next deck I have to talk about is honestly pretty similar to this deck. It's really just slightly different. It's a little bit lower on the curve. That is Devotion Stompy. So the idea behind this one is Aspect of Hydra. 1 green. Target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. So we go down a little bit lower on the curve. We're still playing Old Growth Troll, we're still playing Steel Leaf Champion, because they do have 3 green pips, which obviously makes Aspect of Hydra a crazy strong pump spell. But we're playing cards like Experiment 1 and Pelt Collector, which can get really big, with obviously all of our other creatures like Avatar the Resolute, Paw Patch Recruit, Dryad Militant, that kind of thing. I really love the Devotion Stompy list. It's one of my favorite ways to play mono green in general, just, in Pioneer. This deck is really, really fun. I used to play it a lot in Modern back in the day, and now it easily converts into Pioneer, which is pretty cool. One also cool thing with this deck is we're able to fit 4 collected companies in this deck. That's how cheap this deck is to build. You can get collected companies for about $3 a piece, so that just tells you how cheap the deck is. We get to play one of the best green spells in the entire format. Okay, so the next one I have to talk about is Artifact Scales. If you like the 1/1 counter theme, at least with Devotion Stompy, you're going to like this one. So it's really more of an artifact-based deck, but it is still mono green. Obviously, we're playing cards like Vivian Arkbow Ranger, Thunderous Velocipede, Snakeskin Veil, and Hardened Scales. After all, Hardened Scales is the reason this deck is good. All of our creatures get additional +1/+1 counters. And then we have cards like Patchwork Automaton. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it, as well as, Steel Overseer tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. In general, this deck is just so much fun to play. If you like 1/1 counters, this is definitely the perfect deck for you. So the next deck we have to talk about is Hexproof, mono green Hexproof. Typically you associate this with a green-white, but you can still have a really solid mono green version. Obviously you play Gladecover Scout and Toadstool Admirer, really, really cheap creatures that have Hexproof, or in Toadstool Admirer's case, Ward 2. And then you just put a whole bunch of enchantments on it, most notably Blanchwood Armor. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each forest you control. So being able to play budget lands is actually beneficial for us, because Blanchwood Armor can just make a gigantic creature. And then we play cards like Audacity and Sixth Sense, Ordeal of Nylea, Rune of Might, just to make our creatures absolutely gigantic. So definitely a huge fan of mono green Hexproof. The next thing I have to talk about is just toughness. It's toughness aggro, or you can call it big butts. That's what a lot of people like to call it. Obviously, assault formation. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. And then you play a whole bunch of other cards like the Pride of Whole Clade, Bedrock Tortoise, obviously cards like Overgrown Zealot, Pelucranos Reborn. creatures that have really, really good toughness for their casting costs. And that's what we're trying to do. Instead, attack with the toughness side of it. So essentially, if we have an assault formation in play, Bedrock Tortoise, obviously, well, Bedrock Tortoise counts itself. It's essentially a 6/6, which is pretty sweet. Arboreal Grazer is essentially a 3/3, which is just really, really awesome. It's definitely a fun way to play this deck. There's a number of different color combinations you can really play with the toughness aggro deck, and mono green is one of the versions that you can play in this deck. So the next thing I have to mention, this is really just traditional ramp. If you're looking to play mono green ramp, this is your deck right here. You obviously have your mana accelerants like Llanowelves, Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid. Then we go into your medium cards like Polukranos Reborn, and then you go into your big monsters, Bloomvine Regent, Fecunda Greenshell, Titan of Industry, Tyranax Rex, Kiora Behemoth Beckoner is a really nice payoff when you're playing all these big fatties. And then you get to play one of my favorite cards, See the Unwritten, which is just absolutely awesome. Huge fan of See the Unwritten. Again, if you're thinking of mono green, there's going to be two things you're going to think of. You're going to think of a deck like Steel Leaf Stompy, and then you're going to think of just ramping. And I love See the Unwritten. I think it's a really underrated card in the format. And again, traditional ramp is just awesome. So I kind of know what you're thinking. Hey, where's all the different Kindred decks? I love like my elves and stuff like that. Do you have any, tribal themes? Oh yeah, we do. Let's go ahead and talk about those decks. So the next one is Hydra Ramp. Somewhat similar to the mono green ramp, but it's really just a different type of payoff. Our biggest payoffs that we have, Gargos Fish's Watcher, Hydra Broodmaster, as well as Genesis Hydra. Especially Genesis Hydra is really, really good in this deck. We have pretty much the same ramp package for the most part, but we just have different payoffs as Hydras. And honestly, I really love the Hydra suite in this entire deck. It's fantastic, especially Genesis Hydra. What's really great about Genesis Hydra is it's whenever you cast this spell. It's not when it comes into play. So if our opponent does counter it hypothetically, we at least still do get some value from the Genesis Hydra, which is just awesome. So yeah, huge fan of Hydra Ramp. It's just honestly one of the more unique decks that you can play that I have listed here today. The next deck that I have to talk about is Wolves and Werewolves. This deck kind of got a new creature in Torgal, a Find Hound from Final Fantasy, but in general, it's just Wolves and Werewolves. It's fantastic. It's got some really good 1-drops, some fantastic 2-drops, awesome 3-drops, really nice 4-drop, and as well as the one big 6-drop, Tovolar's Huntmaster, as well as Ranger Class and Moonlight Hunt are extremely strong synergy cards with Wolves and Werewolves. What's not to like? I mean, obviously, this is not the type of deck you get to see every day, and a lot of people really, really love playing Wolves and Werewolves, and yeah, you should definitely pick up this deck if it's a creature type that you are interested in playing. So the next one I have to talk about is Elves. Everyone loves Elves, right? This is probably the most straightforward deck that I listed here today. Llanowelves, Elvish Mystic, Jasper Sentinel. Then we have all of our token makers, Dwynen's Elite, and Elvish Warmaster. And then we just have infinite lords that we get to play. Elvish Clanecaller, Leafcrown Visionary, Elvish Archdruid, and Imperious Perfect. We have a number of different lords in this deck, as well as 4 collected companies. That's how cheap this deck is. We get to play Collected Company once again. This deck is probably the strongest of the bunch. And I've got one last deck that we have to talk about. And for those who know the channel, you know that I have to mention this creature type, and that is Dinosaurs. Mono green Dinosaurs. It's awesome. Dinosaurs is my favorite creature type in the entire history of Magic, and it's awesome. We have our early game plays, Llanowelves, Elvish Mystic, Commune with Dinosaurs, and Herd Heirloom. We start playing all of our medium-sized creatures out. Well, we say medium. They're really big creatures, but for us, they're medium. Regal Imperiosaur, Pugnacious Hammerskull, Hulking Raptor, and a Dinosaur Rex, and then we finish the game off with Galta Primal Hunger and Carnage Tyrant. Honestly, this is my favorite way to play mono green in the format. Dinosaurs is awesome, and of course, I had to mention it here in our video. After all, it's 10 green budget decks. Of course, we're going to mention Dinosaurs. Are you kidding me? And don't be surprised when we eventually get to Gruul and the other color combinations. You know that we're going to talk about Dinosaurs even more. And yeah, that's all I've got for you in this video. I also have to mention, obviously, thanks for watching. The deck lists are in the description below if you'd like to check them out for yourself. For each deck, I have a sideboard included on that. So if you're curious what the sideboard looks like, as well as the specific lands I'm playing, you can check those out in the deck list in the description below. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Sir Ronoki, Michael D, our premium channel member, The Common Kolb, Jeremy P, and BG Stilts. If you were interested in being a channel member, it starts at $1 a month, and you gain access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane, thanks for watching this video, and hope to catch you in the next one.